Oh, we're live. Sorry, I was rocking out to the cool beat we had, and I know everybody's so excited to hear my intro song, and I just can't get it out of my head. I'm just playing around. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining me today. 2 hours late, so I appreciate everybody's understanding. I know you schedule your entire week around making sure that you can watch me live on Fridays at noon, and here I am live on Friday at 2 p.m., but had an appointment I couldn't change, and so here we are. Anyway, I'm super excited to be with you here today. Remember, Financial Friday is my way to help you build a better financial world. And whether it's about mortgage or not about mortgage, whether it's about savings like today or finances or taxes, we're going to get into taxes in a couple of weeks. Really, really important that I help you get out of debt, because my number one job is to help you get into debt. And so I want to try and really help balance helping you build a better financial life. Homeownership's a big piece of that, but I want to be able to help you really learn the things that you need to know, refresh your memory on the things that you've learned before. And today we're going to talk about how to save $1 million. Now, if for those of you who want the short version, it's super easy. You just continue buying lottery tickets and sooner or later you win, right? Yeah, not so much. That's actually the strategy a lot of people use is, I don't know, I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope. Hope is not a strategy. And so I want to start with why save? What's the big deal, John? Why are we even worried about saving? I got Social Security coming. I've got a pension coming. All this stuff's going to take care of me. Well, I think we all know that counting on someone else to take care of you is a pretty scary proposition. And your finances are one of those things that the government and the economic system shifted years ago. And it used to be that nobody trusted you to take care of yourself, and all your money was set aside in a pension. And there is pros and cons to that, but one of the nice things is you truly knew you were taken care of. And there's very, very few pensions that are left over. Most of them are in public service. So for those of you in public service, congratulations. You've still got an opportunity for a solid fixed income source to take care of you into retirement. But I think there's more to look at now that we are really being put in control of our own retirement destiny. And that is, look, yeah, we've got 401ks, we've got IRAs, we've got all of these options on how we can save money, but we really need to buckle down and say, but literally, how do we save money? Not just how are we going to save money? Well, we're going to just save more. But I want to talk about some of the tactical things that go around savings. And the thing that I want to be clear about, I am not a savings budgeter that says, man, you better not spend a penny at Starbucks, because every penny you spend at Starbucks is another year you got to work. Look, yes, spending $4 for a cup of coffee is a whole lot more expensive than spending $1.50 or $1 making it yourself at home. And I'll talk a little bit later, but I'll kind of jump ahead and say everything in life has an opportunity cost. But I'm not a big believer in sacrifice everything in order to save, because the truth is it's kind of like being on a diet. And if you go on a diet and you say, you know what, I'm gonna do whatever diet, I don't really care. Let's call it the no carb diet. I'm gonna give up everything in order to lose weight. And then once I've lost weight, I'll go back to normal. Well, the truth is life kind of sucks while you're in that mode. Now, when you go back to eating normally, your weight often shoots right back up. Where when you save money and you've had the discipline early to save money, you actually can go start spending more money later, because the money you saved is earning money. And I'll tell you this, the reason I actually come up with this topic was about a week and a half ago. My 15-year-old daughter and I were sitting together talking, and the topic of money came up. And I spent probably 45 minutes to an hour talking to her about this stuff. And I thought, wow, I'm teaching this to my 15-year-old that I wish I would have learned when I was 15. And it's kind of why I want to talk to you about it, because my point with her was talking about saving money early and talking about why we should save. Because if you set aside money early in life, you don't have to save as much in order to get to $1 million later. And that's probably the first big piece of advice that I want to give you, is whether it's you and you have a lot of years on your side, or whether you don't have a lot of years on your side, but you have someone else that does, that's important to you in life. Find out think about who in your life is in their teens, 20s, even early to mid 30s that has time still on their side. Because you're going to see in a few minutes when I talk about the numbers that the longer you have to let your money grow, the less money you actually have to put aside. And so it's critical to say why save is A, because if I save a little more now, my life's going to be a lot easier later. And B, I don't want to trust the system, because who knows if Social Security is going to remain solvent? I think it will. But the fact is, am I going to count on that for my stability and security and being able to retire? I don't want to have to do that. And so that's really important to focus on why save. You have to have your why. If you don't have your why, it's the same reason as why am I on this diet to lose weight? If I don't have a good reason why, I'm not going to stay committed to the plan that I have put together. So let's talk about a plan. The first thing about planning for saving is to figure out what your number is. And so what I want to do is to talk through a simple exercise and grab out a piece of paper and just write down these questions. And if you can answer them now, great. If you're unsure of them, that's okay. But I want you to understand the concept. The concept is this. You need to figure out, first and foremost, what are your monthly expenses in retirement? So you have to decide, what am I going to spend each month in retirement to live the life I want to live? Now, that's hard to fathom sometimes, especially the further away you are from retirement. But you got to think about, okay, is it realistic for me to pay off my mortgage before retirement? I'll tell you, it's actually, in my opinion, one of the worst things that people do is pay off their mortgage before they save the nest egg they're trying to save. And I want you to understand this concept. A mortgage does cost you money and interest, but it's also a tax write-off. So it saves you money in your taxes. And so if you spend an extra $1,000 a month paying off your mortgage versus taking that $1,000 a month and investing it, over time, that $1,000 a month will grow faster and compound or grow. The interest will become part of the principal, and it'll grow to more principal and earn you more interest. And so that compounding effect doesn't help you in your mortgage. You're not getting as big of a savings on your mortgage as you are in money that you're investing for retirement. And so if you're saying, hey, John, my retirement plan is to pay off my mortgage, well, that's great. That means you won't have a $2,500 a month mortgage payment when you retire, but you still have property taxes. You still have homeowners insurance. You're still going to have all of your other expenses, and you don't have a nest egg in the bank to help you deal with that. Versus when you have a nest egg, that nest egg spits out interest every single month that can help make your mortgage payment, and you have the nest egg that you can use if you need to dip into. So I'm not a fan of paying off your mortgage prior to building your nest egg. Now, there's a process or there's a flow to what I believe you should invest in first, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, figure out what your number is. Include things like how much you're going to pay in a mortgage, how much money you're going to spend for travel. Just rough it out. Kind of start with maybe what you're spending today and use that as a guide. Now, for some people, they're going to cut way back in retirement. For some people, they plan on kind of living the life they've been waiting for in retirement. So you have to think, what person are you? But no matter what, you need to take that and you need to multiply it by 2.5 is my estimation. Okay, now I've pulled together a lot of numbers from a lot of different places. I like using 2.5 because you're going to have other expenses you didn't budget for, like electricity and gasoline. You're going to have unexpected expenses. And so if you say, hey, I need $4,000 a month to live, then you should have about $10,000 a month in monthly income, because part of that's going to go to taxes in the first place. So take whatever you figure I've got to spend to live on, and whatever reasonable extra expenses you've got, multiply that by 2.5. So let's pretend it's $4,000 a month that you need to live, and what your expenses are going to be in retirement. Multiply that by 2.5, you come out to $10,000 a month in income that you need. Now, we all get a letter in the mail every single year from Social Security that says, based on where you're at right now, you're expected to get X number of dollars in Social Security income if you retire at 62 versus retiring at 65 versus retiring at other, or whatever the dates are. There's 3 different dates. The point is, pick a number. I take the one in the middle. Subtract that number from what you came up in step 2. So if you said, hey, I got to have $10,000 in income, and I'm going to have $3,000 in income from my Social Security and $2,000 in income from my spouse's. Okay, then that's $5,000 you have coming in from Social Security that gets you part of the way to the $10,000 that you need. If you have a pension that you expect to get, take that pension and subtract it from the monthly amount that you need to have. And what you're left over with is the amount of interest you have to generate from the money you've invested each and every month. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, this is how much we need to get each month. We're going to multiply that by 12 to figure out what the annual income is. And then, or excuse me, what the, yes, to determine what your annual income need is. Let's say it this way. And then we're going to multiply the annual income by 20. Now we're multiplying that by 20 because the average rate of return as a safe bet would be 5% interest paid on that money. So if you had $1 million in the bank, your return is going to pay you $50,000 a year in interest, which is going to be about $4,200 a month. So $1 million in the bank, earning you 5% interest. And again, I think you can get better than that. So I think 5% is a safe number, super safe number, means that it's going to spit out about $50,000 a year in income that you now have to pay taxes on and all the rest of that stuff. But that's $4,200 a month that you're going to be receiving from that $1 million. So if you said, hey, I've got to have $5,000 a month, excuse me, $5,000 a month, that's $60,000 a year that you need. So multiply the $5,000 a month you needed times 12, that's $60,000 a year. You then take that $60,000 a year. To get $60,000 a year in income, you actually need $1.2 million. You take the 60,000 times 20, $1.2 million will give you $60,000 in income. Remember, you're separating out already how much money you're getting from Social Security, how much money you're getting from your pension, and I'm giving you very, very conservative numbers, okay? The point of what I'm trying to show you is what it will take if you are trying to live forever without tapping into your principal balance. Because that's the biggest challenge people run into is they say, John, I don't want to outlive my money. Well, guess what? If you needed, an extra $60,000 a year in income and you had $600,000 in the bank, well, guess what? You can live off of that for 10 years, not counting the interest income, but you're going to be dipping into the principal. And after 10 or 15 years, that money's gone because you're eating away at the nest egg, at the golden goose that's laying the goose is laying the golden eggs of interest. And so the key to saving money is to put the money into savings and never, ever touch it. I'll talk more about that later. But when you think about retirement and you think about doing it right, now maybe you need to live, think about, hey, how do I minimize my costs? Maybe that's where you start paying down your mortgage once you've built up your nest egg and minimizing your cost. But the fact is, what you don't want to do is to cannibalize the principal balance, because otherwise you may outlive your money and now you're in really deep trouble. So know what your number is really, really critical as I'm talking to people about savings and the idea of savings. By the way, I'll be clear, y'all know this, I'm not an investment advisor. I don't give investment advice. I'm just talking to you about things that I learned and things that I wish I had learned in school and things that I want to make sure that we're paying attention to. All right. So then you got to really look at where am I now? Because where I am now is going to determine how much you need to save going forward. Now there's some things that we want to look at, and there's some online calculators that you can use, and I'll talk about those in a couple of minutes. But the bottom line is you have to think about where is my money? Well, let's think about where your money is. First and foremost, the obvious places. You've got your checking and your savings accounts. You've got your stock investments, if you have any. You've got your 401k. So if you've been putting money into a 401k, that's fantastic. And that is probably the best vehicle for savings because you're saving the money pre-tax. It's saving you tax money today, and it's giving you the benefit of that pre-tax money growing before you're paying the taxes on it so that it multiplies faster. And when I talk about multiplication, I want to give you a super general overview of something called the rule of 72. If you've heard of the rule of 72, you're going to say, John, you're oversimplifying it. And I am. But the rule of 72 basically is, I think it's Mark Twain said that the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest, because your money makes money that then makes money on top of the money that it made. It's like having children that immediately go into the workforce. So, hey, if I have a kid and that kid immediately goes into the workforce and that kid has another kid immediately, that kid can go into the workforce, and then that kid has another kid immediately that can go into the workforce. You had one kid, and then your kid had kids, and your kids had kids, and your kids had kids. That's probably a horrible example. The theory is accurate. I'm not sure I like the visual of it, but you get my point. The point is the money you earn goes to work for you. There's actually 3 levels of earning income, and that is earning income on the work that I do. That's the first level. That's where a lot of people are, and that's where a lot of people stay. The second level of earning income is actually where very few people go. A lot of people, if they move past the first level, they go straight to the third. But the second level is earning income off of the efforts of other people. So that's where you own a business and you say, well, I'm doing my own efforts, but the truth is I've got a salesperson out there and he's bringing me in a profit of $8,000 a month and I'm paying him $5,000 a month. So I'm making $3,000 a month in profit off of the efforts of other people. And the third layer of earning income, instead of layer 1, you earning dollars off of your own work, layer 2, you earning dollars off of other people's work, is layer number 3, you letting your dollars earn more dollars. That's really the idea of compound interest. The money that you have goes out and makes more money for you, and then it brings in that extra money and puts it together back into the pot, and it goes out and makes more money on top of that. The rule of 72 is really where I'm getting at. And it basically says you take whatever the average interest rate you're going to return, and you divide that you divide 72 by that number. And so if you're going to, and the result is how long it's going to take for your money to double. So if you've got $100,000 that is earning 7% interest, 72 divided by 7 comes out to approximately 10. That means your money will double every 10 years. So if you have $100,000 today and you don't touch it, and it earns 7% interest, it will double in 10 years. So that means 10 years from now, that 100,000 is worth 200. 10 years later, that 200 is worth 400. 10 years later, that 400 is worth 800. You are this far away from $1 million in 30 years if you just started with $100,000 today. I know that's simple. You're going to say, John, where am I coming up with $100,000 today? I get it. But it's the theory that says, man, if you can make 10% return, and there's actually some people who are consistently hitting those numbers, maybe not today, but long term, there's some investments and some funds that'll get you close to that. The challenge is you're taking a much bigger risk. And when you have 30 years before retirement, you can afford to take a bigger risk and you're likely to get more return. So if you are earning a 10% return on investment, in 21 years, your money will double 3 times. So you now take that, in 30 years, your money would double 4 times, which means that $100,000 would become $1.6 million in 30 years, simply because you had $100,000 that got to sit and build upon itself. So this really talks about saving early. And that's the key that I want to point out. We can't go backwards in time. Okay, it's kind of like, when was the best day to plant a tree? 100 years ago. When's the second best day to plant a tree? Today. Well, when was the best day to start saving for retirement? Well, when you were 21. When's the second best day? Today. Okay, so now let's talk about some statistics that say, how much money do you need to actually get to $1 million in annual investments? So how much money do I have to set aside every year? Because we're not just going to magically get $100,000 and have 30 years for it to sit. So let's take a look at some options here. Let's pretend we have 25 years between now and retirement. So depending upon your rate of return, if you're getting 7% return on your money on average, you've got to put away $15,000 a year. Now that's basically about $1,200 a month that you're setting aside. So that's really going to come down to, what does your budget look like? How are you able to, maybe have a side job that's bringing in some extra money that you can set aside into retirement, looking at trimming some of the expenses. It is crazy sometimes when you take the time to look at what's going out of your checking account. You have no idea how many automatic payments you've got set up. So I'll give you a quick, simple trick for that. Every once in a while, you want to, first of all, use the same credit card that you set up for your automatic payments. And then every once in a while, you should cancel that card, or how shall I say, you should contact the credit card holder and tell them you lost the card. Okay? Because if you lost that card, then you're going to get a new card with a new, sorry, I got distracted. There was an inappropriate couple of comments that were just posted on YouTube on my live stream. So I guess that's a first that I've had people hijack my live stream and at least put some inappropriate comments. But it looks like my team just jumped in there and blocked them. So great job, team, and inappropriate comments are gone. So I apologize for getting distracted by some inappropriate links. The bottom line is, you cancel that card. You tell them, hey, that card has been stolen, it's lost, whatever, and you get a new account number. Guess what? Every single one of your automatic payments aren't going to be able to get processed. Now, you do need to worry about the important ones, the things that, hey, my PG&E bill or whatever, if you happen to do it that way. But a lot of things like Netflix, like that other TV system, I don't know, whatever that, I mean, let's be clear. I don't know about you, but I'm super frustrated that we left the cable world to go to satellite TV because it was going to give us more options for less price. And then satellite TV grew and cost me more than cable. And so we left satellite TV to go to streaming services because you could get everything you wanted for $10 a month from Netflix. And then every single provider said, well, wait a second, I'm going to create my own system, and I'm going to charge you for HBO, and I'm going to charge you for Showtime, and I'm going to charge you for Hulu and all of these other services. And you signed up for something one time as a free trial. You signed up for something one time as a, hey, I wanted to watch that movie, and they set you up on automatic payments. Well, guess what? If you cancel that card, you're going to get notifications from all of these companies. Hey, wait, time out. I can't, your service is about to end because we can't bill you on the automatic billing. That's awesome. Because now only the ones that you want to continue are the ones that you are going to start over with and give them your credit card again. So if you are, yeah, Kathy, I know that is YouTube for you, but we blocked them. We succeeded. My team was on it and they took care of it. So thank you. So the bottom line is, the earlier you're starting, the less you have to put away. Now, I'm not saying this number is super easy, but remember, this number also includes your 401k. And for a lot of people, you also get a 401k match. So if your employer is matching you, a lot of employers will match sometimes up to dollar for dollar, up to a certain percentage of your income. That counts towards these numbers that you need to set aside every single year. And right now, I know in 2022, it was $18,000 that you could put aside as a maximum into the 401k. That is a really, really important thing to do super early. Because if you are 40 years old, okay, 40 years old. Now, a lot of people are going to say at 40, you've lost 20 years. You could have started investing at 20 years old. You're right. But if you are 40 years old, you still have 25 years left for retirement. Think about that. You still have 25 years left before you need to retire or would likely on average retire. which means that as long as you're putting aside $15,000 a year at 40 years old, you will have $1 million in the bank at retirement. It's not as hard as what you think it's going to be. And if your employer's matching, then you might only need to put in $10,000 and your employer matches another $5,000, which means you're putting less than $1,000 a month into your 401k. And you save money on taxes. So it really only feels like it costs you about $600 a month. So maybe that's that car payment that you're going to upgrade that car. And you're like, you know what, maybe I'll postpone upgrading that car for now. And I'll put a little more money into my 401k. So that is critical, that it's never too late. And as a matter of fact, even if you're anywhere under 40 years old, up to 40 years old, truth is up to 45 years old, because you could postpone your retirement to 70, you still have 25 years of savings, which means you need as little as $15,000 a year put aside for the next 25 years. All right, the numbers get a little bit more sobering as we have less time. So when we go to 20 years, now for 7% return, you got to put $23,000 a year into savings. Remember, this is including your 401k money, including your employer match. And then it gets a little bit more stressful when you're at 15 years remaining, because at the 15-year mark, if you're earning 7% return, let's see, we got the 15-year number. Here we go. You need, oops, I think we both hit it. You need $37,000. So look at that. You're going from, in 20 years, you only need $23,000 a year. If you only have 15 years left, you need $37,000 a year when you're earning 7% interest. Now, that's a big part of why the IRS rules for 401ks include a catch-up provision, that if you're over a certain age, I think it's 50, that you can put in more than the standard amount, because they know you need a lot. Oftentimes people are starting later and they need to catch up. Now, I want to talk about the reality of timing. Okay, I've talked about, hey, you're better off starting retirement or savings when you're in your 20s, and that is true. But that isn't normally the case. The truth is, we have stages in our lives, and many people don't really start accumulating wealth until their 40s. And so that's why these numbers, when we talk about, hey, you got 25 years left, you have 25 years left when you turn 40, or when you're between 40 and 45 years old. And so too many times, human nature has us feeling like you missed the boat. Anybody feel that way? Man, I missed the boat. It's just too late. No matter what I do, it's never going to help because I've squandered the last 20 years. Man, if I would have put money away for the last 20 years since I was 22, I'd have $1 million today. You would have. But guess what? In 20 years from now, you're going to kick yourself even more when you're 62. And you say, man, if I would have put aside money for the last 20 years, I'd have $1 million today. You could have. You just needed to start. So don't blame yourself. Don't get mad. Don't feel depressed or frustrated because I didn't save in my 20s and 30s. 20s and 30s are about accumulating things. The 20s and 30s are about figuring out who you are in life, getting your family settled, getting a home, accumulating things, and building your career. It's from 40 to 65. That's the 25 years that hopefully you've gotten yourself somewhat settled. You got the family thing figured out. You know what the career is that you're in. And now you've got things. And you start realizing, there's more to life than things. And I got to shift my priorities. Now, let's be clear. If you would have had the different line of thinking in your 20s and you would have sacrificed in your 20s and 30s and saved money, you'd have a lot more money now to spend on things. So delayed gratification is critical. So Kathy said here, first of all, Kathy, you said the right thing in order to get your name on the screen, which is John is right. Thank you. That's all you have to say. That's actually the only important thing Kathy said was John is right. So thank you, Kathy. I'm just kidding. You start saving in your 20s for retirement, you have way more options. You have way more flexible choices because you saved early. Now, you can't go back in time. Don't beat yourself up, but recognize that you had a choice and that the people that you know and love who are in that place in their life right now, they have a choice too. Okay. So how you do this is you start by paying yourself first. What do you mean, John? I mean that when you have your bills and you go to write your check to pay your bills every single month, the number one thing that I have learned is pick a number that I know I can attain each month. And that's one of the first bills I pay. Too many people think of it the opposite. And they say, well, I'm going to pay my bills, I'm going to spend my money, and whatever's left over, I'm going to put into savings. Guess what? Three steps to that. I'm going to pay my bills, I'm going to spend whatever I want to spend, and then money's left over for savings. The problem is when you have money to spend whatever I'm going to spend and it's there, you end up spending it. If you switch it around and you simply say, you know what? I'm going to put 300, first of all, your 401k pays yourself first because it comes right out of your paycheck. You don't even see it. And then you say, I'm going to, I have a little extra money. I got a pay raise, or I was able to refinance and lower my interest rate, my monthly payment, and I'm saving myself $500 a month. You should take a good chunk of that money and keep writing the check every month. You were paying it anyway. You were surviving on a higher amount of debt, and now your debt's gone down. Maybe you paid off a car. Maybe you refinanced your home and lowered your monthly payment or consolidated debt. My recommendation, keep writing the same amount of money in checks because you were already used to living off of what was left over. But take that money that you were paying towards the car payment, take that money you were paying towards the higher mortgage payment, and you write yourself a check into your savings every single month. Okay. But just recognize everything is a trade-off. And so do I want you to say, hey, I'm not going to spend any money on anything? No, that would be a pretty sucky life, to be perfectly honest. What I want you to do is to just recognize that, hey, if I do this, there's a simple mathematical trade-off that says, all right, if I want to buy a ski boat right now, it means I have to delay my retirement by 5 years. It's a simple mathematical trade-off, and you can run the numbers. You can get it. I know some great financial advisors that can help you run the numbers, but just recognize if you postpone doing something, you'll be able to do it and more later, but don't postpone everything. You're going to end up in your grave. You're going to end up on your deathbed saying, I wish I had enjoyed some of my money. I can't take it with me. We've all heard that. And so you don't want to be in that position where you are, where you regret having not spent anything, having experiences, having the ability to take care of people. So just understand everything is a trade-off, but if you pay yourself first, there's still going to be money left over. All right, here's the golden rule that I have lived by for savings for the last 10 years, and actually 12 years. And that is save 20% of your gross income and never, ever, ever touch it. People too often think about savings as their rainy day fund. Not really. Your savings, your true savings, if you really want to save $1 million, that money you put aside is not your money. That's the future use money. And so you have to recognize that fact that you are not going to get to where your goals are going, where you want them to be, if you treat the money you save for the future as today money. So you want the thinking of never touching it. You want it in a separate bank account, so it's not part of your regular checking account. You want it to be hard to get to, but you have to have some money that's easy to get to. And that's your money market account. So what I think is that you should have basically 3 different buckets of money. You have the easy money, the close by money, your checking and savings money that's in your checking account. And that's the money you're using every single month to pay bills and handle expenses and all that kind of stuff. But then you have in your money market account, your buffer money or your reserve money that says, man, if I run short or if I have an expense that isn't normal, I can dip into the money market. And you want to keep the money market at a certain dollar amount. I'll explain that dollar amount in a second. And then all the extra money, see, there's such a thing as extra money, goes into your investments. That's a third set of accounts. Those accounts are not part of what you think about as a rainy day fund. And so what you want to do is you want to keep 3 months of reserves in your money market account. So you're going to take all of the bills that you pay every single month, all of the must pay stuff. Okay, because if things get tough, you can get rid of some things. You can shut off Netflix. It's not a must pay. Now, we want to, and maybe you decide, you know what, John, Netflix is a must pay for me. Okay, cool. Then include that in your monthly minimum expenses. And you put 3 times that is your goal to build up your money market account. Now, for a lot of people, you have to burn through that money market account at different stages. Maybe you need a new roof on your home. Well, there you go. There's the money market account. Maybe you're in a situation where, you had a death in the family and somebody needed help with funeral expenses. There goes your money market account. But then you slow down your investments into the long-term third bucket until you rebuild the money market account. That's your buffer. So you live off checking and savings. You keep 3 months in the money market account. And when it's at 3 months, everything goes extra. When you pay yourself first, it's going straight from checking and savings into your investments because you already have that 3 months in your money market account. That system really helps you so that you're not dipping into the long-term funds. Okay. So here's a philosophy that I have about money, and it's really a 4-step process. And I kind of tiptoed on a few of them. The first thing is become a homeowner. Okay. Because being a homeowners are long-term 10 times wealthier than renters. You're going to say, of course, John, you're saying that because you're paid to help people become homeowners. Well, that is a true statement, but that's not the reason that I'm saying it. It is a statistic that you can find online. And obviously everything you find online is true, right? Yeah, I don't know about that. But here's the deal. This is how the numbers break out. You actually get 3 types of savings, 3 types of wealth building through homeownership. And most people only think of one. Most people think of appreciation. So appreciation being, let's see if we can make this bigger. Appreciation being the amount of money the house price has gone up. And everybody's worried right now saying, John, housing's stagnant and dropping some, and so we're not going to get appreciation. Well, I don't want you to fall victim to the challenge that most humans do, which is the challenge of thinking that whatever's happening today will continue forever. The truth is what's happening today is today. It's for now, not forever. And so on average, in a good year, shoot, we had 36% appreciation in 2020 and 2021 combined. That's 18% per year. Okay. Now, you're going to have years like that. You're going to have years that we're going to drop 2, 3, 4, 5%. But the average really is about 5 or 6% per year on average in California is what it's been trending. And so right now I'm only using a 2% figure and saying, hey, if your $350,000 home went up 2% per year, that's increasing $7,000 in the first year. That means if you take $7,000 divided by 12, that's $583 a month that you are getting in savings simply by appreciation or the house price going up. The second way that most people don't think about is it actually, as a homeowner, forces you to save money in the form of paying down your balance. Now, John, how's paying down my balance saving money? Because paying down your balance means you owe less money, and later on when you sell your home, you'll have more of the value of the home in your pocket. As a renter, you don't get any of that. You don't pay your landlord every month $2,000 and he says, hey, of that $2,000, I'm going to take $300 a month and I'm going to set that aside for you and I'll give it to you when you move out. Well, that's great. Every year your landlord will give you an extra $3,600 into that account, but no landlord's going to do that. But the bank does through home ownership, because on a $350,000 home, you're going to get approximately $300 a month in principal reduction. That is money that is put into a forced savings account for you. And the final piece is a tax write-off. You get a significant amount of tax write-offs for interest and property taxes that ballpark, I'll talk to your tax advisor, add up to another $590 a month. So that's almost $1,500 a month, or almost $18,000 a year that you're saving through home ownership. That gets you a long way towards becoming the millionaire through home ownership. So step 1 of my plan for helping you become wealthy is focus on home ownership. Okay. Step 2 is to have your 3 months of reserves in your money market account. So if you liquidated your reserves in order to become a homeowner, that's okay. But the first step is to focus on putting that money back in. Step 3 is to max out your 401k. Okay. Now, why do I say that step 3? Because let's pretend that you're trying to become a homeowner and you're saying, John, I can't afford it, but you've maxed out your 401k. Pull back on your 401k investments. You're going to make more money in the home ownership side than you're going to make on the 401k. And then as your income goes up through getting pay raises, you refinance your mortgage and you lower the monthly payment. That's when you start increasing your 401k back up. Okay. Don't increase your 401k until you've got your 3 months of reserves. Once you own a home, now, let me be clear. If you're a renter and you're not ready to buy a home, put money in your 401k. I'm not telling you don't do it. What I'm saying is if you have the choice between, well, I can put money in my 401k or I can buy a home, buy the home and then rebuild your 3 months of reserves, then max out your 401k, then start investing in long-term investments such as the stock market, mutual funds, all of that stuff, which brings the question of, do I do it myself or do I hire an advisor? Here's the deal. An advisor is going to cost you money. An advisor is going to take a percentage of the money that you're earning for their services, but they're also going to help give you really good advice. And so you have to decide, do I want to wing it and try and figure out if I can do it on my own? Or do I want somebody helping me manage my money? I'll tell you that a majority of my money, I have people helping me manage it. A little bit of it, I wing it. I play with it. I have some money in an E-Trade account. And E-Trade. And I got some money in Tesla. And I loved my Tesla money until the last 6 months. And now I've lost money in Tesla. But I don't really care because it's a very, very small portion of where I'm investing. But it teaches me about the market. So if you're thinking about putting money into the stock market and you want to learn about it, you should invest some money yourself without using an advisor, but it's going to be a small portion. I say less than 10% of your net worth should be managed by yourself. Okay, you are not an expert in where to put the money, and you're going to make emotional decisions instead of logical ones. So that's really, really critical. A couple more things and we're just about done. Second to last thing is, don't use your investments to make large purchases. Even buying a home. I will tell you, I would rather you put a super small down payment and pay mortgage insurance than to liquidate your 401k or to pull money out of the sources that you'd put in for long-term investments. You want to, you want to preserve that money. Once you start treating it like money that you can touch and grab out of, it's a vicious, slippery slope that ends up getting most people in trouble. All right, the final thing I'm going to tell you, and then I'll leave a minute for questions. So if you have questions, this is the last thing I'm talking about. Feel free to post those questions. I've got about 7 or 8 people watching right now. So if you have any questions, post them. Otherwise, I'll finish and wrap up with this. And that is, just like being on a diet, it's progress, not perfection. If you ended up, hey, I made a mistake, John. I liquidated my retirement account because whatever, I thought it was the right thing to do. No problem. You have time still, no matter how old you are, no matter how long it's been that you built up that money and now it's gone, or you made a bad investment decision. I get it. That's life. We all make decisions. It's about baby steps and making progress. If you looked at the numbers today and said, gosh, John, to save $1 million, I need to put aside $20,000 a year, and there's no way I can do that. Put away $100 a month. Because it's progress. It's about building the discipline. Like Kathy said earlier, she started saving for retirement when she was in her 20s. And it's about having the discipline built in. You can always change the dollar amount. If you say, I can't afford to participate in my 401k, if your employer is matching, you need to participate. That's free money. Not only in the 401k are you getting tax-free money, but if your employer's matching, you're literally leaving money they were going to write you a check for sitting on the sidelines because you just chose not to participate. That's silly. Okay. So don't focus on, I have to be perfect or I have to hit this big plan. Focus on, how do I take steps to get myself a little bit closer to my goal than where I was today? All right, gang, I don't see any questions yet. So if you're in the middle of typing a question, feel free to finish it and I'll answer it. Otherwise, I really appreciate all of you listening today. I've got Kathy saying, you know what, Kathy, I agree. Kathy says, oops, wrong one. Kathy said, even $25 a month is great. It is. Like, it's little amounts that matter, because it's over time, it's going to grow. You're going to feel progress. And it's the problem with how we make decisions is often emotions instead of logic. If you save $25 a month, you'll see over time, while that money has started to grow, it actually is adding up. And now your emotions say this is a good idea, it's working. And now you just add a little bit more to it. So progress, not perfection. All right, gang, I appreciate your time today. Hope everybody has an absolutely amazing weekend. Go Niners, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.